how to do conflict well. Conflict can be very, very difficult. There's some people who really seem to thrive on conflict. It's an interesting thing to observe for me how this habituated state just seems to keep iterating itself through people. And there's some people who are very conflict averse. I was in the latter camp. And I'm certainly not now. I don't seek out conflict necessarily, but I can feel the tolerance within me is much higher than it used to be. And I think that's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to get into martial arts initially, was to try to understand, coming from maybe a people pleaser background or something like this, what it would mean to actually stand ground physically, and then stand ground verbally as well. Because whenever you look at conflict, you have to be able to break it down into these different subsections. For instance, when I'm working with people, sometimes it comes up that conflict is okay if the conflict comes to you, but then initiating the conflict, there's still some block around that. And if it's verbal, physical, the different relationship dynamics, so you might have more difficulty, say, conflict with women if you're a man, or men if you're a man, or with women if you're a woman, or with men if you're a woman. It's like there's all kinds of different dynamics that you have to look into. And if you want to really resolve some of these issues within yourself around actually being able to stand your ground in a way that doesn't leave you feeling resentful and angry, doesn't leave you feeling like you self-abandoned and you transgress your own boundary in favor of keeping the peace, because sometimes it's necessary to hold something solid. And it's also in that way that people know where they can meet you. People know what's a no, what's a yes, so they don't end up taking too much. Because it might actually be that people don't want to take too much, but if you're not kind of standing a ground or saying no or holding a boundary there, then they might end up taking too much because you're overgiving, and then you start to feel resentful about it, and maybe you start to distance yourself. We've all done it. Certainly I've done it. And they don't know exactly why that's happening. And so there is a lot to be said actually for getting comfortable with conflict. So today I want to look at a few of the feelings that might come up in response to conflict. This should be at least a bit of a blanket session in order to start to just get into some of the ideas where we might be holding survival stress, survival tension that stop us, and certain ideas around, well, conflict is bad. Conflict is not something I can do. Conflict is, it's not acceptable for me to be violent or aggressive or hold my ground or have a kind of a backbone almost. So we want to look at all of that stuff and look at that very particular fawn response that lets us take more than we're actually willing to take. When we do that, then we actually start to feel less safe in ourselves, because it's like, I don't trust myself to get into, say, intimate relationships, because I'm going to end up giving too much, because I don't want to say no. I don't want to get into conflict. I don't want to get into an argument. I don't want to feel that kind of high-pitched, high-tempo feeling in my nervous system. I want everything to be peaceful, because that's where I feel safe. Whereas for some people, being in conflict is actually where they feel safe. So we want to be able to go into these situations, say what might be high intensity for us, and be able to hold the opposite of that at the same time, like maintain a connection to the opposite of that at the same time. So if that's something like, say, anger, people are coming at us with anger and we start to feel that rising anger, but then we maybe also feel stuck, shut down with it, frozen. It can be a very scary place to be for a lot of people, so they'll end up avoiding that in themselves. We'll start to look at some of these ideas today and see if we can explore the territory of conflict and start to shift some of the potentially stuck energy around it. So find yourself a comfortable position. Get ready, strap in. So just notice what you notice. Hand on the belly, hand on the chest. Notice what you notice about your relationship with conflict and your relationship with yourself when you're in conflict. Do you feel survival stress start to come on? When you think about a recent conflict that you've had with somebody, or the last time you got into a significant conflict where you felt these things rising, and maybe the intensity of that energy building in the body caused you to react in certain ways, or maybe you just got shut down, or maybe you start to move and go into the flight response. Just notice what that brings up in you, thinking about the last time that you were properly in conflict and how that felt. and what happened after that. Like, did you hold on to these feelings for a long time? Did it take a long time for you to come down from that survival stress response? And as you're thinking about that, you can start tapping around the beginning of the chest. You can start tapping around the collarbone. Noticing what you notice in the body on the level of physical sensation. Notice the thoughts coming up as well. Maybe fear-based thoughts. Notice the pitch, the tone, the tempo of the thoughts, the tempo of your experience as well. All this fear of conflict. And you can close your eyes whenever it feels right, and you can work through the points at your own leisure and your own pace. I want you to hold the image in your mind of the last time that you were in conflict, or maybe the more significant time that you were in conflict. You can open your eyes at any point and come out of it, but just see if you can pull up some image connected with conflict that has an emotional charge. You need to go ahead and rate that emotional charge on a scale of 0 to 10. So 0 is nothing, 10 is super high, very highly charged atmosphere. When you have that image in your mind, we'll continue tapping and you can repeat after me. All this fear of conflict under the arms. This fear of conflict. I feel so afraid of conflict. It feels so much for me. It feels too much for me. It feels too much for me to handle. I don't feel like I handle myself well. I feel all this intensity of energy. But it feels so intense that my system shuts it down. I start to become helpless. When I hear those high-pitched tones and those angry voices and those angry facial expressions pointed in my direction, my nervous system becomes very active. All kinds of responses start to mobilize. I start to feel fear. I start to feel panic. I start to feel dread. Part of me starts to ramp up. And part of me completely shuts down. And this is a really difficult space to be in. Because then I feel really helpless. And really small. Way smaller than I am in real life. It's almost like a part of me is stuck in time. It's like I become a child again. And as I become a child, I regress back into childhood reactions. Survival state reactions. I just shut down and close off. And I lose all connection. And I lose connection with myself. So I look for connection with the other. Which means I'll do anything they want. Just to restore the connection. Just so I can feel safe again. I so badly want to feel safe. I really, really want to feel safe. I hate reacting in this way. I get so frustrated with myself. Why can't I just stand my ground? Why can't I argue back? Why does it not feel okay for me to say what I need to say? Why does it always come after the argument? I wish I'd have said this. Or I wish I'd have said that. And I get so frustrated. I'm so ashamed of my reactions. I think I'm just really bad at conflict. And that makes me feel weak. It makes me feel helpless. Maybe even makes me feel pathetic. I have so many judgments about myself when I react in those ways. I'd love to stop judging myself. I feel so helpless. I don't feel like I can even stop that. That's probably a sign that my nervous system is shut down. When all of the thoughts come from the I can't energy and reflect things like I don't have it in me. It's just not possible. I can't. I'm not able. When the thoughts have this tone, that should tell me that it's coming from shut down energy. And then the other part of my nervous system mobilizes to try to aggressively coerce, chastise, judge, and shame this shutdown part into compliance. So I have the fight response in me internalized towards the shutdown response in me. And as I aggressively go after my own shutdown response, that seems to drive the wedge in even deeper. Because the truth is, I can't shame myself to change in any sustainable or meaningful way. That's not how it works. I can feel that shame. And maybe it's even safe to do so. But I need to meet that shame with warmth. I need to meet that shame with connection. If there's any hope of any change. But sometimes it just feels safer to stay in shame. Because if I stay small and non-threatening, then I won't have to endure more pain. I'll just feel the pain of my own self-judgment and my own self-criticism. But there won't be any more external pain. And And at least if the pain comes from inside me, at least that's a pain I can control. Or at least that's how my mind thinks about it. And I might even be thinking right now that I'm such a bad person for having this pattern. That's just more survival energy speaking. And at some point in time, at some point in the future, there might be a place I could go where I could imagine myself having more empathy. More empathy for the struggle. More empathy for how difficult this has been. More empathy for how I've internalized these patterns. All in the name of trying to survive. And actually it's worked. It's got me through childhood. It's got me to where I am right now. And the part of me could even be grateful for that. And at the same time, being willing to soften my stance towards some of this survival energy. And gently start to release it. Bit by bit. Without pressure or without force. And start to liberate some of the stuckness from within my nervous system. Seeing that both these parts of me, the part that shuts down and feels shame, and the part that gets angry and frustrated at myself, are two branches of the same tree. They're both trying to protect me. And all that's required is that I give them a little bit of space. And not try to clamp down on them. Not try to push and force them away. But sit here and breathe with them. Sit here and move with them. And let them express themselves fully. Abstaining from judgment. Abstaining from jumping on criticism. Letting them gently move. Letting them gently flow. Being right here, right now. And being completely present in a way that I wasn't able to when I was too young and small. I couldn't do that then, but that was then. And this is now. And I might be willing to give that a try. Even imperfectly. To make that my practice. Because this area is important. It's important that I learn to stand my ground. It's important that I learn to feel safe when engaging in conflict. And there might still be times where I don't feel safe. After all, conflict can be painful. And so there might be times where I do feel really scared. But But I'm willing to commit to myself that in those moments, I'm not going to keep practicing self-abandonment so that the other won't abandon me. I want to practice being here with myself, saying yes to myself, saying yes to my system, saying yes to the anger, saying yes to the shame, without trying to force it away, but actually bring it a little bit closer, to bring it in and give it the love and warmth it needs to transform organically. That's all that's required. Just a little bit more presence and connection from my side, so I can build tolerance and capacity with all of these uncomfortable feelings. I know it's possible, and it might be a long road, but I'm willing to practice. And it might not be as long as I think. As long as I keep practicing, gently releasing all of this stored survival stress, day by day, from my body, helping my system recognize that now I'm safe. It can let go of what it was holding and start to build an internal connection that really feels right and true. So I'm not hating parts of myself. I'm offering them understanding and support. And when that's my general baseline, and all my parts are united, that's when I can really start to feel my own power. Willing to let it go as best I'm able in this moment. Willing to release survival stress. Willing to let go of the shame. Willing to let go of the past pains. Willing to express, connect with, and let go of the anger. Willing to speak up. Willing to stand my ground. Willing to be with myself. And willing to be at peace. Hand on the belly, hand on the chest. Breathing in. Breathing in. So keep noticing what comes up from that. Notice what are the feelings, what are the thoughts, and you need to give all this stuff airtime, really. It's like sectioning off a little time-boundaried piece of your day to say, I'm just going to work at being present with all this stuff. And the more you expose the light of your awareness to it, the more it starts to disintegrate. And gently, day by day, all of that survival stress can start to lower itself down, which actually gives you more capacity to be present in the moment with whatever you're faced with. It's largely a body thing, you know, you're letting a lot of this energy come up, but you also really want to pay attention to the thoughts as well and just let them have their airtime. So you're kind of decomposing it on the level of the thoughts and the sound, but also the level of the images as well, like past images that have maybe been troublesome for you or have some kind of emotional charge to them. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to do more on this kind of stuff, conflict avoidance, because it's a big topic for a lot of the people that I work with. So let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover in the comments section. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the next video.